Welcome back. You are tuned in to Traders Nation. I'm pleased to have with us here today book author Rory Jones. He wrote The Executive Guide to Boosting Cash Flow and Shareholder Value. Rory, welcome to Traders Nation. How are you today?
Great. Thank you for having me. A very timely book.
Oh, yes, I'm telling you, it sure is. In the choppy markets that we're seeing nowadays, I'm telling you, every public company needs a copy of this book, Rory. What brought you to write this other than, the obvious?
Well, there's been a lot of advancements in how to manage those value over the years, and it seems like the word hasn't been getting out there. So we've spent a fair amount of time, I think, company by company, delivering our message, and it just seemed like there was a much better way to get it done.
Yeah, Rory, what kind of companies did you interview, investigate, things of that nature to gather up the data and information that you put together for your book?
Sure. So this is a set of material that's been put together by, I'd say, 3 or 4 partners out of large consulting and audit firms, accounting firms. And it's gone over, I'd say, the last 20 years, specifically focused around how to manage for value and how to deliver cash flow growth.
Sure. Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about that. How does one get geared up for a high-performance business?
How does one get geared up for it? Well, one has to figure out where cash is coming from. I think it's fairly well accepted now that the way to drive value growth in a business is to figure out where cash is. And if you look at today's systems, most people, most business leaders rely on the information system that's provided to them for financial reporting. Of course, those contain in them all, I don't know if you've recognized the idea of GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. These are basically contrived by accountants, and they include a whole series of adjustments to profit that in the end deliver a number to managers that isn't really profit at all. It includes all sorts of things like depreciation, amortization, and the way they apportion expenses causes a very highly distorted view of where profit's coming from in the business.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the 80-20 rule. As you know, strategy has been a long rule of thumb, if you will. Is it still in place today when it comes to cash flow? Rory?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. Did you hear my question?
I didn't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. The 80-20 cash rule. It's a rule of thumb. It has been for years for cash flow. Yeah. Still in place today?
I would say so, but what I would also say is the distortion that you get, that managers get, is they can't see where cash is coming from in the business because they rely on their accounting systems.
Yeah.
And what the message of the book is, you need to drop that. Take a look at the business from a cash view and back out all of those accounting manipulations that have taken place by the accountants as they deliver their financial statements for people that are going to read it outside of the business. And what managers need to do is to figure out at a fairly granular level within the business actually where is the money coming from. And that's one thing that they're unable to do now because they rely on GAAP.
All right, so basically we got to rewrite the rules when it comes to the cash flow and the rules.
The rules. That's exactly it. And in fact, right now, FASB is the accounting board is in the process now of figuring out how to do that for the outside. But nobody is looking at what accounting systems need to change in order for management to get a decent visibility on profit within the business. Oddly enough, that's only half the message that they need to get. The other half is that they need to be looking at the same sorts of issues outside of the business. Did you know that, for example, most managers basically look at the business in the next year, the next 3 years going forward. They don't look at their marketplaces for the next 15 years. And oddly enough, 85% of the value of their business is driven by the next 15 years of cash flow. And so the second message that we have is you need to study the markets that you're playing around in and figure out where the economics are going to be into a very long time range. And there are techniques that you can do that easily allow that to happen.
Right. All right. What's the difference between internal profit pools and market profit pools?
Well, that's exactly it. And so internal profit pools is what the book helps you figure out. It basically says cut through GAAP to figure out where cash is coming from within the business. Now, that might sound like a bit of an exercise to go through, and to some extent it is, but the rewards are tremendous. You get several points of revenue boosted straight to the profit line. It's quite stunning how it happens.
Right.
Secondly, the market profit pools notion is the idea of looking outwards, looking at where the market's going to go in the long term, again in the 15-year time frame, and using that picture, translating it into economics and figuring out where's the pools of profit going to be in the marketplace that you can go down and chase. It is quite stunning how many businesses are just continuing to go down their existing markets and not raise their head up to look around to say, well, where are the new sources of profits going to be across industries using our existing skills so that we can go and chase them down. And really that is where, whilst you might get several points of revenues added to cash flow using internal profit pools, and that happens very quickly, if you look out into the marketplace and look at where the market profit pools are going to be, that actually changes the cash flow and the value of the business by orders of magnitude.
Yeah. Now, how often do these companies, isn't this like gathering up your forecasting and trying to predict your future and what avenues that you are going to take when it comes to trying to generate the revenue?
Well, yes, I would say, well, the fastest way to make it happen is to figure out where your cash drains are, which internal profit pools are causing you to lose money. And I would say that is by far, it delivers results in about 6 months, 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
If you then figure out which assets in the business are actually driving a lot of good cash flow today, and you take all your growth investments and you focus on just those areas, you get a result in, 6 months, 18 months, around that sort of time frame. And that boosts, there's another couple of points in revenue that you add to your bottom line. And now you take where you're spending most of your time. Today, most managers are not focusing performance improvement efforts. They're just sort of blindly across the business trying to spend a lot of time, I guess, on improving performance across the business. If you then focus those efforts on just the middle set of assets that are kind of performing but not performing too well, if you focus your efforts on just those areas, now you can get some bang for the buck.
Yeah, what's the best way for a public company to increase shareholder value?
Drive long-term cash flow. Again, I think if you figure out where cash is coming from within the business today, that is, you cut through gas, you get an immediate boost. And if you then turn to looking at marketplaces in the 15-year time frame, you get an order of magnitude, 2-, 3-fold increase in the potential for growth in value, the share value of what the enterprises that you're managing.
All right. Now, Rory, where can we get a copy of your book today, The Executive Guide to Boosting Cash Flow and Shareholder Value? Barnes & Noble, Majors, where?
Yeah, sure. It's in all the regular bookstores. Now, the publisher has put together a website, profitpools.com. That's PROFITPOOLS, plural.com. Mm-hmm. There should be some freebies there if you mention Traders Network today.
Oh, nice. All right, head on over there today. Mention Traders Nation, of course, and you can get some free information, of course. And then go to Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore on the corner. The small guy, he's got it too. In addition to Amazon and all the big online retailers, get a copy of The Executive Guide to Boosting Cash Flow and Shareholder Value. Rory Jones, thanks for being on Traders Nation today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. All right, get a copy today. Very important, especially if you're a public company. You really got to get some of this information. Okay, you need to. It should be in your library. Okay, especially during you get some rough times in the market that we're seeing. All right, you can really take advantage of it by learning something new.